When I moved into this new neighborhood, I expected peace and quiet, not a full-blown turf war with an HOA that thought they owned the residence. From the minute I rolled in with my Porsche, Linda Mason, the so-called vice president, decided I was public enemy number one. She fined me, threatened me, and made it real clear. People like me didn't fit the community vibe. But the funny thing about control freaks, they always take it too far. And trust me, she did. Before we go any further, tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from. I love seeing how far these HOA horror stories travel. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button because tomorrow's episode, you're not going to believe what Karen tried to pull next. Anyway, back to this circus. I just moved into Maple Ridge Estates, the kind of place you'd see on a postcard. Perfect lawns, shiny mailboxes, kids riding scooters, moms jogging with lattes. But perfection is often the best disguise for chaos, and I was about to learn that the hard way. Linda Mason was the first neighbor I met. She introduced herself with that politician smile. You know, the one that says welcome, but her eyes say get out. She looked me up and down like she was scanning for a reason to file a complaint. "We have standards here," she said, voice dipped in fake sweetness. That was her way of saying, "I already hate you." The fines started almost instantly. First one, improper parking. The car was in my own driveway. Second one, grass too long. I'd mowed it 2 days earlier. Then, trash bins left out too long, even though I pulled them in within the hour. It wasn't enforcement. It was harassment wrapped in stationery. So I showed up at the next HOA meeting, dropped a fat stack of fines right on the conference table, and said, "Linda, I've followed every rule. These are bogus." She leaned back in her chair, twirling a pen like she was the queen of petty. "Rules are rules," she said. "If you can't handle them, maybe this community isn't a good fit for you." Translation? Leave before I make you regret staying. I stayed, and that's when things started getting ugly. A week after that HOA meeting, the drama dialed up from annoying to criminal. One morning, I stepped outside, coffee in hand, ready for work, and froze. Every single tire on my Porsche slashed. Deep, deliberate cuts like someone enjoyed it, and under the windshield wiper, a folded note. "Next time, we take it." Can you believe that? A threat on paper in broad daylight. But here's where it got worse. The handwriting looked familiar. My stomach turned. This wasn't about grass or garbage bins anymore. This was personal. I took photos from every angle, filed a report with Deputy Luis Cortez, and handed him the note. He sighed and said, "Keep your cameras rolling. These people aren't amateurs." He wasn't wrong. So I upgraded everything. Motion lights, more security cams, cloud backups. Because I already knew Linda Mason didn't get her hands dirty. She got other people to do it for her. At the next HOA meeting, I slid the police report and tire photos right onto the table in front of her. Linda sat there with her little plastic smile, surrounded by her board of minions. "Someone slashed your tires?" she said, pretending to sound shocked. "That's terrible, but maybe calling the police on your neighbors isn't the best way to make friends." Friends? I wasn't looking for friends. I was looking for accountability. So I said, "You're making victims by looking the other way." The room went silent. You could hear a pin drop. And that's when I caught it. A tiny nod from an older man at the back of the room. A quiet sign of fear, or maybe respect. Either way, it told me one thing. Everyone knew what was going on. They were just too scared to say it. Linda didn't deny a thing. She didn't need to. The power was in the silence, and she loved every second of it. That night, I stood on my porch watching the glow from her kitchen window across the street. And I made myself a promise. The next time they crossed the line, I'd be ready. But I had no idea just how far she'd go, or that her next move would involve fake cops. 2 weeks later, the neighborhood peace shattered. Again. It was a calm afternoon, sun out, no clouds, nothing strange, until my phone buzzed. Motion detected, front driveway. I opened the camera feed and froze. A white SUV was parked in my driveway, engine running. 3 men climbed out wearing reflective vests that said HOA Security in big black letters. One carried a toolbox, another held a heavy tow hook. Can you guess whose car they were standing next to? Yeah, my Porsche. They didn't knock, they didn't ask, they just started working, unclipping the plate, lining up the tow clamp like they were repo agents in a hurry. Now here's the part that made my blood boil. They moved like pros, calm, confident. like they'd done this before. I stepped outside, quiet, controlled, my hand brushing the grip of my concealed pistol, not out of fear, but training. "Hey," I said loud enough to carry. They froze. Two turned around, one smirked like he was auditioning for a cop show. "Official HOA enforcement," he said. "You're in violation. We're impounding the vehicle." "Oh, really? On what authority?" I asked, walking closer. The guy flashed a laminated badge, shiny, cheap, and definitely printed at Office Depot. That's when I knew exactly what this was. Linda's latest stunt. I took one more step, slow and steady, and pulled back my jacket, just enough for them to see the U.S. Marshal badge clipped at my waist. Their smirks died instantly. "You're not law enforcement," one muttered. "Try me," I said. Tension hit the air like static before a lightning strike. The three glanced at each other, uncertain now. Behind them, my camera kept recording everything. Clear angles, timestamps, audio. If they so much as twitched wrong, it'd all be on file. They could have left. They didn't. The one with the tow hook stepped up closer, grin back on his face, crowbar dangling in his hand like a dare, Marshal, he sneered. And that's when it happened. He swung. Hard. The crowbar came swinging, fast, sloppy, desperate. He aimed for my ribs, but I'd seen that kind of move 100 times before. Training took over. I sidestepped, deflected, and fired one controlled shot. Center of his thigh. He screamed, dropped the weapon, and hit the pavement hard. Non-fatal, but enough to stop the threat. The other two? They panicked. One rushed with a wrench. The other tried to tackle me. Bad idea. I caught the first by the wrist, twisted, and heard that awful crack that means it's over. He collapsed, clutching his arm. The third one barely had time to blink before I drove him backward and pinned him to the ground. No theatrics, just clean, efficient control. And all of it, every second, was on camera. Neighbors poured out with phones raised, mouths open, eyes wide. Three men on the ground, one bleeding, two whimpering, and me standing there, calm as a stone. 3 minutes later, sirens cut through the silence. Sheriff Cortez rolled up, lights flashing. Deputies swarmed in, cuffed the suspects, and started gathering the evidence. Crowbars, fake badges, reflective vests, everything. I showed them my marshal credentials. No drama, just facts. They'd already seen the footage on my cloud stream, timestamped, high def, and airtight. Within 48 hours, the paper trail unraveled. Venmo payments, group texts, all tying back to, surprise, surprise, Linda Mason. Read, "Handle the Porsche, teach him to leave." And just like that, her little empire collapsed. She was charged with solicitation, conspiracy, and HOA fraud. The three hired men, impersonating officers, assault, and attempted grand theft auto. They all pled guilty. At trial, the jury didn't need long. The video told the whole story. The threats, the lies, the power trip. Linda got 30 months in state prison and over $150,000 in restitution. The others? Prison time and permanent records. The HOA board crumbled, members quit. The neighborhood rewrote every bylaw under court supervision. As for me, I stayed. Same house, same driveway, same Porsche. Linda thought she could bully me off my own property. She didn't know she'd picked a fight with a U.S. Marshal. And here's the thing. You can mess with a man's mailbox, his grass, maybe even his trash bins, but you don't send fake cops to take what isn't yours. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button, subscribe to the HOA Karen Stories, and drop a comment below about what you would have done if HOA security showed up at your door. Because trust me, tomorrow's story, it's even crazier.